Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, everybody's ready? My name's Chris Leroy. My first name is spelled C-H-R-I-S. Last name is spelled L-E, capital R-O-Y. And I'm the Chief of Police here in Forest City, North Carolina. Okay, so this morning on August the 9th at about 8:30 in the morning, officers of our department responded to the area of Hill Street in regards to a suspicious person who was reported to us as armed and dangerous. As the officers were en route to the scene, they further learned that the person in question in the area may be Akil Franklin. The reason they had learned that his name might be Akil Franklin is because our agency was made aware of outstanding warrants through the North Carolina Probation Office that they had outstanding warrants for Mr. Franklin. Our officers arrived in the area and did encounter Mr. Franklin in a wooded area. Mr. Franklin is known to the officers. They have encountered him in the past, so they knew him by sight. In the wooded area, they tried to engage him in conversation in regards to the call for service. In other words, they tried to engage him in a conversation as to the outstanding warrants for his arrest. When they tried to communicate with him, Mr. Hill brandished a firearm and discharged a weapon several times in the area of the officers. There was 3 officers on scene at the time. Officers returned fire at Mr. Hill. At this point, it is unknown if Mr. Hill was struck. It appears, information that we know at the moment, appears that Mr. Hill was not struck by the officers on scene.
Hold on, you said Mr. Hill, you mean?
I'm sorry, Mr. Franklin was.
It was on Hill Street.
It was on Hill Street. Mr. Franklin was not struck by the officers, as information that is known to us right now. One of the responding officers was struck by gunfire from Mr. Hill. I'm sorry, Mr. Franklin on Hill Street. He was airlifted by air ambulance to Spartanburg Regional Hospital for treatment. At the time of the incident, Mr. Franklin fled the scene, and currently he's unknown. His location is unknown to us. Because of the information, or because of the incident, the Forest City Police Department has charged Akil, and I may be pronouncing his middle name, it's Kelis, it's spelled K-E-L-I-S, Omar Franklin. He's 20 years of age from Forest City, North Carolina, with 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder, 1 count of assault on law enforcement with a firearm, and 3 counts of resisting a public officer. He is still wanted by the North Carolina Department of Corrections for probation violations for the underlying charges of common law robbery and assault inflicting serious bodily injury. Our agency is partnering with numerous local and federal agencies. When I say numerous local agencies, every law enforcement agency in our county is assisting, and numerous other adjoining law enforcement agencies, to include our federal partners, are assisting. And the U.S. Marshal's Office has offered a $10,000 reward leading to the information to the arrest of Franklin. That information can be called into Rutherford County Crime Stoppers or to the Rutherford County Central Communications number. I'll give both of this written press release to you on the conclusion, but those numbers are 286-8477 and 286-2911 respectively. At this point, we're considering Franklin to be armed and dangerous. Anybody that does come into contact with him, we're not asking to not engage him in any type of information, but to contact your local law enforcement agencies. But I'll be happy to answer a few questions if you guys have any at the moment.
What's the name of the officer that was shot?
It's Senior Officer Jamie Hill.
Spell that.
It's Jamie, and his last name is Hill, Hill.
How old is he?
I don't have his file in front of me. I don't have his age. I'd have to look it up, to be honest with you.
Do you know how long he's been an officer?
He's been with the officer for the police department for the past 3 years. Previous to that, he served in the U.S. military.
What are the status of his injuries? From what I hear, he may be in the ICU.
Currently, he is in the ICU. He's undergone at least 1 surgery. He's listed in critical but stable condition at the moment.
Do you know where on his body he was shot?
He was shot in his abdomen, between his vest and some other protective gear that he had on.
Is there a reason to believe that Mr. Franklin would be in the area at all at this point?
The investigative leads have not excluded him from the area, and right now they're just following up on all the investigative leads that come into our command center.
As it gets later in the day, what's your message to people who live in this area as they get ready to go to bed tonight, as it gets darker with him still on the loose?
Honestly, we have no information that there's an immediate threat to anyone in Forest City. There's obviously a very large police presence in Forest City, so you'll see a lot of officers and cars, agency cars that you may not recognize. But those are officers that are assisting as tips come into the police department, but we have no information to any specific immediate threats to the neighborhood or the town.
Should people check sheds or anything like that, lock those doors tonight?
As you normally would, take the precautions you normally would at night. We always encourage our citizens to check car doors, shed doors, house doors, not leave any of those things unsecured. But go ahead and we're at that, and that's why we're asking for people not to go actively hunting or looking for Mr. Franklin, but to contact us if they have information that might suggest something's out of place. If they see a shed door open or a car door open or something that's not normally that way, contact the local law enforcement agency, and we'll investigate that for you.
You said the original call was about an armed and dangerous individual in the area or site of a suspicious person.
Yes.
What was he doing that caught somebody's attention? Do we know that?
I personally have not spoken to that caller yet. The information that came into the call center was just a suspicious person in the area that is possibly armed and dangerous.
What were those outstanding warrants for, Chief?
Yeah, they're through the Department of Corrections, and they were for the underlying. They're for probation violations, and the underlying charges were for common law robbery and assault inflicting serious bodily injury.
And you said you guys have dealt with him in the past. Do you know what kind of charges or what kind of incidents you guys have had with him? You see the police are familiar.
We have encountered him in the past. I don't have his criminal history in front of me. We like I said, the officer that were working that beat this morning knew Franklin by sight. They had encountered him, and we have engaged him in conversations on a number of occasions.
Did he flee through the woods on foot? Is that how he got away?
He fled from the wooded area on foot. Whether his flight continued on foot or by some other means, we don't know yet.
Was he in contact with anyone, or was he with anyone at the time, or he was just by himself?
He was by himself in the area when the officers tried to engage in conversation with him.
Did he have a cell phone? Did you guys, you dropped that? Or?
There was nothing at the scene that he had dropped. We presume that he has a phone just because most of the general public has cell phones at this point in time, but we didn't find anything at the crime scene now.
Have you been to see the officer who was shot since he's been
I
in the
haven't been to
hospital?
see the officer
Can
yet.
you tell us about that and any conversations with him or his family today?
I haven't had conversation with the officer. He was undergoing treatment when I got to the hospital, and quite frankly, once his family was notified, we made those communications. I wanted to get back here and deal with this
Was he
side
shot
of
just
things.
once?
Yes, there was just one shot.
You said Mr. Franklin was known by the department. Was he someone who was known for by the officers? It seemed that he was known by them. Was this somebody who has had some run-ins with the department in the past?
He's definitely got a criminal history. What all that entails, I don't have in front of me. Like I say, obviously he's got a criminal history. He was wanted by probation and parole for common law robbery and assault inflicting serious injury. So I mean, he's certainly known to law enforcement. What all of those dealings are, I don't have in front of me.
Chief, is there anything you'd like to say to Officer Jamie Hill's family?
Just that we're keeping them in their prayers. Obviously, the whole community has come out and kind of rallied around the family. We're supportive of them, and basically anything that they need at this point, we're here to oblige for them.
Has anything like this ever happened before? Is this kind of out of the ordinary for you guys, or do you kind of encounter things like this a lot?
We've not had an officer injured in a shooting since, to my knowledge, since probably the early '90s or maybe even the '80s. It's been a significant amount of time. I couldn't tell you what the last time we had an officer injured to this degree in the line of duty has been.
What is it like to see all these other departments coming and give you guys this support?
Oh, honestly, it's wonderful. I hate that it's under these circumstances, but my phone has literally not quit ringing with offers of assistance and support from as far east as Charlotte and as far west as Tennessee, South Carolina. I mean, I literally have probably 250 to 300 police officers just waiting for information to act upon. I've had probably that much more. More offers that I've had to just basically ask to be placed on standby if that needs. It's a wonderful feeling to know that the department and the town is respected enough that those agencies would reach out to us in this time of need. So it's a great accomplishment.
Who is handling the investigation of the incident? Would it be SBI?
So there are several. It depends on which aspect of the investigation you're referring to. Anytime an officer discharges a firearm in their line of duty, the SBI, the State Bureau of Investigation, is called in to investigate that. Depending upon what that investigation unfolds, depends upon how much further those things go. Obviously, the officers that are involved in this incident, the other two officers have been placed on administrative leave until the internal investigation is done, which will begin hopefully tomorrow. And there's a number of other agencies that are involved in those kind of things. It just depends on the aspect of it. We've also been in contact with the elected district attorney here. I've talked to him today to kind of apprise them of the situation, as well as, again, I can tell you the number of law enforcement agencies I've talked to at this
Are
point.
you still manning the command center? Is that still active right
It
now?
is still active right now, yes.
And that's at the church, right?
It is, yes.
Has the community been forthcoming? Have they been helpful with you guys?
We have had some information come in as far as to the command post. I think the information that's come in so far has been followed up on and hasn't obviously we haven't got him in custody at this point, so it hasn't become fruitful. But we have had information coming to the department, and we hope that continues.
Do you
How
have
many
Should
any
we list where he is?
No, at this point, I have no idea as to where, if he's local, if he's regional. I mean, we've had a lot of information come in that a lot of those agencies are following up upon, whether it's a local agency or a federal partner. They have no information as far as where he's physically at the moment.
How many officers are boots on the ground right now helping with this search?
It's obviously an estimate. I would say, I left the command post and just scanning around the room. There's 100 to 150 officers. I wouldn't say more than 2, but I mean, there's certainly, like I said, there's agencies, officers from every agency in our community plus the surrounding communities.
Do you want to share what he was last seen wearing, or was there a car involved at all, or anything like that?
We've had some information come into the PD about a car being involved. The car that was called in was a dark color sedan. We haven't really been able to establish if there's any credibility to that information yet. The last clothes that he was seen wearing was a dark colored T-shirt and a darker pants. I don't know if there's long shorts or actually jean pant type clothes, but it was a dark colored clothing was the description given.
Do we know his height or weight?
I do have his description stuff here. Like I say, he's 20 years old. He's listed as 5'6", 120 pounds. He's a light-skinned black male. I think this does not have any information as far as, I'm sorry, there is a description of a cross tattoo on his left arm and a tattoo on his left arm with the name of Omar.
Is there body camera footage of this incident with officers?
There
around?
is.
Have you watched that body camera
I
footage?
have not reviewed it yet, no.
What will be the process for that being reviewed and possibly released at some point?
It'll be reviewed obviously as part of the criminal investigation and the internal investigation, but the release of that will be solely set upon the district attorney's office and in compliance with state law.
Were all 3 of the officers wearing body cameras that were running at the time?
They're all 3 wearing body cameras. I have not reviewed them yet, so I can't speak to whether or not they're all 3 running. Our policy is for them to be running. Obviously, with some exceptions, if there's some kind of exigency where the officer, for a safety purpose, can't activate it, obviously I don't want them to activate a camera in lieu of their safety. But all 3 were equipped with body cameras, and to my knowledge, I know there was footage. I don't know how many officers had footage.
Do you know how many shots were fired during this exchange?
I don't at this point. I know there's one gunshot wound. I do not know how many numbers. I don't know the number of shots exchanged.
Did all 3 officers return fire?
I know that 2 of the officers have. Obviously, like I said, I didn't speak with Officer Hill because he was in surgery at the time.
Were any people told to evacuate their homes? We had some people who said that police were coming through, telling them to go inside, but did they have to evacuate the area at any point?
Early on, we evacuated 3 residents because we had some information that he might be inside of a work shed behind one. That information turned out to be incorrect, but we did evacuate 3 residents in the area as a precaution. Sergeant Hill is here. If you guys want the written documentation for anything, please give him your contact information, and I'll be sure to email it out to you.
Are we allowed to use the photo of officer?
Yeah, I don't know how recent that is. It's within a year, so yeah, I mean it's fine. I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
I think he's on. I'm almost positive he's on. I don't think he was deployed at the time, so I think he's on that board.
Yeah, I saw him.
He is. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Chief.
No problem.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We did the microphones all over.
You probably want those back. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I don't know whose is whose.
Yeah, let me grab my, real quick. No, everybody's your license. Thank you about the copies, juicy.
Yes, I'm good. If you, yeah, I've got your email.
You can email